Morning, everybody. We're headed east into the sun this morning, which is why it's so bright on this ugly mug of mine. How do you avoid FEMA camps? Well, don't go there. I mean, you fell for the clickbait. Yeah, you know what? You shouldn't be prepping for your survival based on clickbait. Yeah, you're welcome. Alright, how do you stay out of a FEMA camp? You don't go to the damn FEMA camp. How do you not have to go to the FEMA camp? That might be a better question. One that is actually worth an answer. How do you get to the point where you don't need a FEMA camp? Okay. Pretty much everything we talk about here. Pretty much everything the Revolting Man talks about. And everything that Pastor Joe at Viking Preparedness talks about. And a lot of the stuff that Pastor Dowell at Straightway talks about. And most of the stuff that Nothing Fancy talks about. But I guess if you want me to boil it down for you as to what do I think, the first way you stay out of a FEMA camp is that you have food, right? FEMA's going to offer you a handful of things. Security, food and water, medicine, shelter. So, if you provide those things for yourself, why do you need FEMA? You don't. FEMA, some of us have worked with FEMA. Raise your hand. They're not necessarily very good at what they do. And without getting onto a diatribe here, why large swaths of our society would outsource their well-being to a government alphabet soup agency, I will never understand. Now, that being said, you need to grow your own food. You need to be collecting water. And when I say grow your own food, I mean have a big old garden. Be raising livestock. I'm in the city. Dude, it's on 1/3 of an acre in North Texas in the suburbs. Meat rabbits, chickens, entire backyard growing stuff. Half of the backyard dedicated to raised beds and row crops, and the rest of it was berry bushes, grapevines, potted fruit trees grown in 5-gallon buckets. So, and then animal enclosures. So, it's not that you can't do it, it's just hard. It's hard. Well, you know what else is hard? Dying. So, you need to produce your own food. Both with the garden, with livestock, whatever. It's not enough to just have food put up. Should you have food stored? Yes. A minimum of a year for every person that you have in your house. A minimum of a year for every person you have in your house, plus some extra, because people are going to find you, whether they're people you know now or people that the Lord wants you to meet then, okay? People are going to find you. Next, water. You should have water stored. I get 55-gallon plastic drums for free. And, I mean, they're food-grade plastic drums. I fill them with water out of the tap right now because that stuff's cheap. I don't even remember what we pay for water, but it's under a penny a gallon, okay? So 55 cents fills that drum. It's even less than that. Anyway, fill up water containers and have water storage. Have a way to collect water. I mean, if you need to basically get rainwater collection going somewhere on your house. Maybe it's just the back side of your house because you don't want all your neighbors knowing that you're a crazy tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorist, prepper, survivalist, whatever. I would say their opinions matter less than your survival. but you could get into a situation where you have a homeowners association trying to assert authority over you and your family, which if you're in that situation, I would say leave. No man should have any authority over your life other than you. Says me. Now, this is a really dang bumpy road, okay? So store water, collect water, have another independent water source like in Texas, in our North Texas suburban home. We know where there's a water source that we can get to, and we have a plan to draw water from that source and convey it back to the house if we are there, although that is not our primary goal to be there. You know, in Oklahoma, we have 3 creeks, 3 wells, and a stock pond. So that's where we intend to be when it all hits the fan, right? And then also with water, you should have a way to treat the water. You should have multiple ways to boil water, and you should have multiple ways to filter water. So treatment would be iodine or chlorine, chlorine bleach. Filtration would be something like a Big Berkey or a Katydine Hiker, or no, not a Life Straw. At a bare minimum, a Sawyer Mini. If you love the Life Straw, go watch my Life Straw video. Just look it up on this channel, and then you'll understand why I'm not a fan. But, right, have a way to filter it, have a way to treat it, and boil it is obvious, right? Anytime you have, if you have a break in the municipal water supply lines, they'll tell you need to boil water for 24 to 72 hours, okay, to kill any bugs that might be swimming around in it. And if your electric stove doesn't work anymore, how are you going to do that? So build a fire, have a little propane camp stove, one of those turkey fryer things, that people are always setting their decks on fire with. One of those, propane fired burner, basically. Whatever. Food and water. Okay. Medical. This starts to get a little bit more tricky, but this is the stuff we always talk about on this channel. A lot of, the clickbait channels. 10 things you need to know to survive the end of the world. Okay, they're all useless without training. How to flint knap an arrow. Really? Okay. Alright, I guess we're all going to go back to, being Neolithic cavemen running around in the woods. We'll all just eat long pork. We'll all just kill each other and eat long pork. Whatever. Not so practical. Medical. You should have a first aid kit. What should that look like? Look back through my channel. Just type in first aid in the search bar, okay? You should have a first aid kit. You should be proficient in using it. Contact your local Red Cross. Contact your local fire department, okay? These people will train you for free. Learn how to use the gear that you have. When you get competent with that gear, get more gear, medically speaking. Learn how to use that, so forth and so on. There's a lot of excellent classes you can take, both free and paid, to get your medical competency up, way up. You should also be part of a group, and in that group, you should have as many medical professionals as possible. If you don't have any medical professionals, you should have as many people trained in medical proficiency as possible. We are fortunate to have a general practitioner doctor, an EMT, former combat medic, and then several military guys that all have basic first aid. And I may or may not have a couple of firefighters sitting on the fence about wanting to join. So our medical proficiency is high. I would like to find a veterinarian, because veterinarians are like a strange combination of like MacGyver and a combat medic and a general practitioner, medical doctor. I'd also like to have a couple of nurses with ER experience. And I think nowadays most nurses have ER experience. I think they start you there so you get used to the blood and the guts and the gore and the screaming people and the pissed off people and all that. And then everything, it's downhill from there. So that'd be great, because I can teach a nurse to shoot a rifle. It's hard to teach a rifleman to be a nurse, So anyway, that's medical, right? And then stockpile medical. One of the things that I'm doing this weekend when I get to Oklahoma is I'm going to Triple H Surplus in Poto, Oklahoma, and I am probably going to offer the guy a $100 bill for everything on his medical rack. Because it doesn't look like anybody's been there in a while, or at least in the medical section, and he's got cases of 4x4s, cases of 2x2s, cases of rolled gauze. He's got probably 12 or 15 sterile, unopened IV prep trays. He's got all kinds of stuff, combat dressings, the whole nine. So I think I'm just going to say, I'll tell you what, buddy, I'll give you $100 for everything on this rack. Just for inventory, just to have, because those are consumables, man. And you don't want to use up your last one, and now what? Oh, we'll go scavenge. Cool. So you're going to go look for stuff. You're going to increase your risk of exposure. Now you got guys taking rounds for medical supplies that you could have just had in the first place. So there's your medical aspect. And then security. We have a series in this channel called Continuity of Community. All right, you've established a community, you've established a MAG, a mutual assistance group, or whatever you want to call it, your team, your tribe, your group of people. You've got a group of like-minded people together, which is key. We foot stomp that all the time around here. A group of like-minded people of one accord is essential. Okay, the lone wolves, y'all are going to do great till you twist an ankle and die of starvation because you can't move. Roger. Now, you establish your group of like-minded people. You have your community. It all hits the fan. Now what? Well, in that series, we have a breakout video called Security, where I talk about security and what you should have, what my suggestions would be, what I would do, what I, to a certain extent, intend to do. I'll never get very in-depth with y'all about that for OPSEC, bro, but I'm comfortable giving you guys guidelines and general rules of thumb about what you should be doing and challenging your paradigms about what you are doing. So regarding security, yeah, you can get that from a FEMA camp if you're okay with the fact that the concertina wire points in over the top of the fence, not out. So, I mean, security is relative, right? Out of the frying pan and into the fire, it just all kind of depends. Who do you want to be safe from? The drug cartels or the government? Either one will protect you from the other. Is either ideal? Nah. So, security, without rehashing that video I've already done, is have everybody in your group trained to use a rifle. But what about a pistol? What about a pistol? I love pistols. The reason that people carry pistols is because they can't carry rifles. Why does a pistol exist? 2 reasons. If your rifle runs dry, you can transition to your pistol, okay? Or if your rifle has a malfunction, you can transition to your pistol. Theoretically, in CQB, sure. If your target's 200 meters away, there's not a lot of people that can put rounds on target with a pistol at 200 meters, okay? So the first one is because of a rifle malfunction or you're out of ammo. The second is so that you can fight your way from where you are to where your rifle is. So that you can engage the enemy with the rifle that you should have had in the first place. So that's why people carry pistols on their hips. I mean, that's why we have pistols. They're a lot more convenient to carry around than, a carbine or a rifle. Dare I say, they're not necessary for everybody. I believe it's more important that everybody on your team, and I mean everybody, every single able-bodied person, everybody knows how to shoot a rifle accurately. Our grandma, 80-year-old grandma, has expressed to me her interest in acquiring a rifle and me teaching her to shoot it. She's also in the market for a nice pistol. I want a nice pistol. I love Grandma. Grandma's awesome. Okay? Grandma is an 80-year-old woman. And Grandma sees the value in knowing how to put rounds on target with a rifle. Every single person in your group that is capable of shooting a rifle should be proficient with the use of a rifle. And dare I say, there should be a rifle for them. One of the things I'm trying to figure out right now is where do I come up with several $1,000s to buy a half dozen rifles without my wife finding out and castrating me. I don't have good answers to these questions yet. But everybody, a rifleman first, okay? Then camp cook, then daycare, then security forces, truck driver, farmer, veterinarian, logistics, whatever, okay? Then those things. Everybody a rifleman first. And if you can do that as a group of people that care for one another, love each other, see the value in working together as a team, that are all on the same piece of property, all protecting common interests, all raising each other's children, eating communally, praying together, sleeping together, sharing space together, living together, your unit cohesion is going to be through the roof. I will add one caveat to security. Infighting, you have to squash that ASAP. You cannot become divided over petty BS. Now, but especially then. You can't do it. All it's going to take is one person who is not of an accord with everybody else. And they will start, the whisper campaigns start. The gossiping starts. The gossip turns into full-blown disdain for their peers. And then before you know it, you've got an insurrection on your hands. So you need to keep an eye out for that. But what is a FEMA camp going to provide to you? Food, water, medical, shelter, security. Let's talk about shelter briefly. We're already 18 minutes. Brief talk on shelter. You can put one family per bedroom wherever you are right now. Okay? So you got a 5-bedroom house, that's 5 families. That's you and 4 other families. Get used to it. Okay? There's a lot of people with a lot of house that they are just not using. Grandma in Oklahoma's got a gigantic house. You know, I could honestly put 30 people in her house. And if I need to, if the Lord taps me on the shoulder and says, hey, the world's ending, I'm sending people your way, we'll do that. Grandma's cool with it, because Grandma's cool. You know, I can put another dozen people in my house. I can fit 15 people in my shop and probably 10 to 12 people in my barn. Easy. So you can put one family in a bedroom for sure. Pastor Joe, another nugget from Pastor Joe, Viking Preparedness, is as you build structures on your property, if you're building structures, build them in such a way that they can accommodate a person or persons in a SHTF scenario. Yes, this is a woodshed, but if you flop this hinged shelf down, this is a place to lay your head, and there's a little wood stove and whatever, right? So intentionally build your structures to store people as well as things. That's it, man. What is FEMA going to do for you? Food, water, medical, security, shelter. You should do all those things for yourself, and you should be in a position where you can do those things for others as well. It's going to take time, it's going to take effort, but how secure is a FEMA facility? Why do you want to be there? I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole here, you know. Just Google how many coffins FEMA has on hand and ask yourself how much you'd like to be inside of one. Not saying there's a huge probability of that happening, but it is a statistical probability, isn't it? Especially if you're in a FEMA camp to begin with. So how do you not end up in a FEMA camp? Be independent now so that you can maintain independence then. Talk to y'all later. Hey y'all, just a brief follow-up to the video I just shot about how to stay out of a FEMA camp. I was re-listening to that and I realized I missed a fairly major point. FEMA, if you have to set foot into a FEMA camp, refugee camp or whatever, you will be disarmed. You will not get to keep your weapons. You will not probably get to keep any of your deuce gear, your molly, your gun belt, your plate carrier, your chest rig. If you have any of that, you're not going to get to keep it. You're not going to get to keep your ammo. Anything that could be used for you to rebel against them once you're there, you don't get to keep it. Now, it sounds real nefarious, and it could easily be that way. But I'll tell you this, if I had a bunch of refugees come onto my property and they were all armed, they're not going to be underneath my roof with their weapons, at least until I get to know them real well. I mean, real well. So, he that trades liberty for safety deserves neither and will soon lose both, or something to that effect. Words to remember. The number one reason I'm not going to a FEMA camp is because I don't have to. The number two reason is because I will be disarmed if I go there. And that is non-negotiable. I am not going to be disarmed. It's much easier to resist tyranny when you have the tools to do so. Food for thought. Talk to y'all later.